Hi, I'm Jen Berg. Welcome to the second part of my video series on using liquid watercolor. Today I'm going to show you how to add liquid watercolor to a drawing made with both red and black Sharpie for a really cool effect. For this project, I'm going to be using a number 2 pencil, both a red and a black Sharpie, thin tipped, and I'm going to be using a piece of watercolor paper, 140 pound or 90 pound, whichever you have. I've also settled on using animals as the subject matter for this project, and I'm going to be using one of my favorite books as a reference. You can use anything as a reference. Photographs from a magazine, something you find online, or you don't have to use an image. You can use your imagination and make up an animal. It doesn't have to be an animal that exists in real life. Like I just said, you don't have to use a reference. But as an art teacher, I hear my students often say they don't know what to draw, and that's where a reference comes in. It helps you along. It gives you something to look at. It gives you ideas. You don't have to stick to it 100%, but it's a starting point. I am going to use this reference to start with, and then you're going to see where I take off in my own direction. First, I take a moment to notice the basic shapes that make up the subject of my drawing. A round head attached to a curved rectangle body. Then I draw those large shapes lightly and pretty loosely on my paper. From there, I sketch in more loose shapes for the legs, tail, eyes, and other important details. Any shape that doesn't look right, I can redraw. The goal is to keep drawing loosely until the subject starts to emerge. You'll know it when you have an image you like. You might have noticed by the pencil drawing that just flashed on the screen that I haven't included very many small details yet. I will do that now with my black Sharpie, starting by drawing over my pencil lines. The next step is to divide your animal into different sections so you can add different design details into these sections. Watch how I do it. As you can see, I make smaller and smaller shapes and areas to detail as I go. A lot of times in drawing it works to save the smallest details for last. Before I start filling in the detailed sections, let me demonstrate how I'm going to do this. The idea is to create contrast between sections you work into by creating very dark and saturated areas, different tones of gray areas, and light areas with very few or no lines or shapes. I can create a gray value by filling an area in with lines. Lines that are close together make a darker value. Lines with more space between them create a lighter value. This is true when you're using a red or a black pen, but black is always going to be darker than red, and adding red to an area is always going to make that area darker than just leaving it white. You will definitely want to leave white spaces. This is how you keep contrast in your design, which is very important, because contrast is what makes an area pop. And another thing you have to have if you want to create contrast is light and dark areas close together. That is an important thing to remember whenever you're drawing. When I'm done filling in an area, I like to redraw over my outlines to strengthen them. Now it's time to apply all of these ideas to the drawing of my animal. You can decide after you've finished filling in with Sharpie that you like your animal to just stay red, black, and white. But if you want to expand the color of your animal, I'm going to show you how to tint it with liquid watercolor. The colors I'll use to tint are red, blue, and yellow liquid watercolor. And as you can see, I'm starting with yellow. Then I'll add red and blue liquid watercolor. It's important to remember to let a color dry before you add a different color right next to it. Otherwise, it will bleed into the color you had painted previously. Sometimes that is a wanted effect, and sometimes it's not. I am going to stop here. But if you want to, you can fill in the whole background with liquid watercolor. That is up to you. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you enjoy this process, and I want to see your projects. Never hesitate to send me your photographs of your work, and you can see my email. It'll flash on the screen very soon. Thanks again for joining me, and keep making art.